office of the Crown. And I know because I am one. So you have no authority. So please move your vehicle.
The paperwork is coming and we'll show you what we've got.
You don't have any paperwork which is lawful.
Wayne?
I know who State Security are. They've been monitoring my computer and my phone for ages, and I gave them access. So you have no authority on this property.
Good morning, Mr. Glue. My name's Jeff Fawley from the State Security Investigation Group.
I'm not Mr. Glue. My name is Wayne.
Okay, Wayne.
As ruled by the Supreme Court.
Cool. There's your copy of the search warrant, Wayne. At this
what?
point in time, you're under arrest under suspicion of
not under
incitement
arrest
to commit
for anything.
indictable offence.
Indictable offence of what?
Incitement to commit indictable offence.
Of what?
Deprivation of liberty.
Of who?
At this point in time, you're under arrest.
For what?
Okay. Incitement to commit indictable offence.
Do you have the evidence there?
No, that's a copy of your search warrant. Okay.
Hang on a sec. Because this is nonsense and you know it. This is an attempt to shut me up from teaching the truth.
No, not at all.
Yes, it is. Where's the... Hang on.
Let's go with him, Lewis.
Well, you can take it and go. That's not signed by anybody.
Okay.
It's not signed by anybody and you know it.
The copy of the search warrant isn't signed by the JP, it's blacked out. I've got the original copy of the search warrant, which is signed by the Justice of the Peace.
Where is it?
In the car.
Could I have a look, please?
No, that's your copy. That's what you're entitled to have.
No.
Okay. All right. We're going to do a search warrant. You're under arrest. I'll get you to come with me, please, so that...
Will you get me? Good morning. My return to Facebook. After dealing, to a degree, with a number of allegations made by companies and employees of companies. Those companies are not ACN companies, being corporate bodies. They have ABN numbers and they are companies. They claim, no, we are this, we are that. You are nothing. Nothing more than trading companies under the very act that you use to exist, which I'm not going to deal with in this. What I'm going to deal with is the fact that in this country we do not have any lawful parliaments. Not at state level, not at federal level. Why? Because if you saw the video that these people are referring to, you will note that everything stated on there is factual. To be a state, you have to comply with 107, 108 and 109 of the Constitution. Can you comply with that? Well, that's pretty well automatic when the Constitution was proclaimed and gazetted. Not the Constitution Act. That is not our Constitution. It is the covering imperial act of a superior parliament to the parliament able to be set up under the Constitution. The reason I use that terminology, it never happened. Now, the trolls, the know-alls, the Director of Public Prosecutions, lawyers, judges, magistrates can all put their 10 bobs worth in, including the advisors to Albanese. Liars. Liars because you know. Liars because you concocted this nonsense. The fact of the matter is, 106 of the Constitution requires that the states can retain their constitutions subject to this Constitution. Where in our Constitution does it say you can create another entity to replace all the governments? Where does it say you can remove the provisions of 106 of the Constitution? Every state constitution on the 29th of October 1900 was put in place with a letters patent. Fact. You can check it out. Each state was created under 107, 108 and 109 of the Constitution. There's a lot of conjecture that Western Australia did not go into federation. Lie. Western Australia was created. It was created because Queen Victoria issued a command and a direction, and which is printed all over the wall, or in a big section of the wall, of the Church of England in St George's Terrace, Perth. It states clearly that Western Australia was created. It still had to comply with 106. Did it? No. Why? Because Western Australia decided it was not going to put the lawful state constitution as proclaimed and gazetted and put in place with a letters patent. They weren't going to put it in. They were going to put one in with 32 sections missing. Why? To mislead and deceive the people. Was it deliberate? 100% absolutely was. Now, what came out of that is 5 of the 6 states created to create the federal parliament. So we've never had one. You can lie. You can say, oh, no, that's not necessary. Well, actually it is. It's absolute. Why? Because you parliament people, and I refer to you as that because you're not our politicians. If you were created lawfully, you would be honest people, but you're not. None of you. I haven't found an honest one of you yet. In fact, usually you work on the premise, don't lie, cheat and steal, because you'll get upset with us because we're cutting into your field of lies. Isn't that nice? Actually had a bumper sticker. Don't lie, cheat and steal, the government hates competition. That's pretty well it. So let's go to the truth of what's going on. This was created in 1988. It is nonsense. It is a lie. It is a fraud. It's copyrighted to the political parties. Why would that be when it's supposed to be our constitution? But it is not. It's revised edition. It says Quick and Garran. Unfortunately for you, 1957, the last of Quick and Garran passed away. So it's not authorised by them at all. Not unless you've got a time machine to go back and pick that up. And you haven't. Anything else would be nonsense. Absolute and utter nonsense. Now, what you have to realise is I'm not going away. You're not going to lock me up. You can lie all you like to the people. You can put out notices. You can put your garbage in the court. But this is a letter from the Director of Public Prosecutions. Unfortunately, your department is a company. Has an ABN number 33-585-197-892. I'm not going to refer any more to this letter because I only received it the other day. It's nothing but a load of lies, and I'll deal with that later because it is. You see, contained in this book, which is what I've referred to all along, is the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK, put in place by Queen Victoria and the British Parliament. Look at that. On the 9th of July 1900 it was proclaimed. It became law. Whose law? The law as proclaimed right across the British Empire as the Constitution to establish the Commonwealth of Australia. It's an act. Can you touch it? No, it's a letters patent. You can't even look at it. You can read it, but you can't go near it. Look at it means you can't interfere with it. So I'm clearing things up because somehow my age prohibits me doing anything according to some SC. You can apply SC on a very big range of words, which I'm not going to because I've been told I'm not allowed to insult people, so I'll just leave it at that. Silly cretin comes to mind, but I'm not allowed to say it. And I didn't do that, so just rub that out. Now, the Commonwealth Constitution, 1901, is a separate document to the Constitution Act. It was proclaimed on and gazetted on the 1st of January 1901. Now, the reason I brought that subject up, because a lot of people have been referring to the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1901. It doesn't exist. Even the Lying Australia Act, which is this is a government book, by the way, and I received it, I got it in 1986. It says altered to there. God knows how they did that because they're not allowed to. Anyway, Section 5, Commonwealth Constitution, Constitution Act, two separate things, and Statute of Westminster, not affected by this Act. Isn't that nice of them? Now, I've got to deal with the rest of this because it takes a lot of explanation, the nonsense that's contained in the Australia Act. There was no 6 states required for their parliaments to confer with the federal parliament, pass any acts, rules, regulations, whatever they call them, to authorise the Australia Act without going to the people by referendum. And it didn't happen. Simply there were no lawful states. Now, the reason I went after Mark McGowan is this is simple. It says, and this is Wikipedia, Premier of Western Australia. The Premier of Western Australia is the head of the executive branch of government in the Australian state of Western Australia. The Premier has similar functions and powers in Western Australia to those performed by the Prime Minister of Australia, subject to the different constitutions. Well, Mark McGowan, what you've put into Wikipedia is nothing but lies. It can't be considered anyone else. And your statement overturns the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK and the Commonwealth Constitution. Both. You overturned it. And you've made a statement which is outright lie. Where does it say in the Constitution you must have a Premier? What is a Premier? Foreman of the Parliament. I would expect if we had a Foreman of the Parliament, he would at least know what the law says. Obviously you don't. You don't if you say you're the head of the executive branch of government. The Constitution, our Constitution, and the Commonwealth Constitution Act states clearly that's the Governor. You are not the Governor. It also states in Chapter 1 that the Governor, the head of the executive government, who has his own letters patent which cannot be removed or changed without the monarch, because the letters patent and it's never been done. So you lied. By reading what you've put, I've come to the conclusion that your intellectual ability as a lawyer was a zero. Your comprehension of our Constitution is very close to zero, because our Constitution says the governors of the state, the Governor-General, to create the Executive Parliament of the Commonwealth, has to select 10 from the lower house, 8 from the upper. We've never had it. Never had a federal parliament. If we have, prove it. Prove we had 6 states at federation. We did not. We had 5. It's the coming together of the representatives of those 6 states which create the federal parliament. We only had 5, because Western Australia, according to John Forrest, could retain its constitution with 32 sections missing, and that's what was put in place. So Western Australia was not lawfully constituted. Now, the Governor selects 10 from the lower house, 8 from the upper, at the state level. He wields the exact same authority as the Governor-General, which is the full authority of the monarch. Like it or lump it, that's the law. Now, your problem is, Mark McGowan, you've decided you're above the law. You've decided you can appoint people and issue the portfolios. No, that's issued by the Governor-General at federal level, state parliament, the state governor at state level. But Western Australia has never been lawfully constituted. Who gave you the authority to step up and do what you're doing? No one. Nobody. Maybe your friend Albanese, maybe your mates in the Labor Party, maybe all the political parties. But they have no say in anything. It's whereas the people. Absolute, total and uncontrollable authority remains with the people. Page 286 of our Constitution, the annotated one, which is the true interpretation of the Constitution by the framers who wrote it. Not you, you have nothing to do with that. So you holding 3 portfolios makes you a thief, a liar and a fraud. Actual fact, you receive money for those 3 portfolios. Why? You're stealing. Every time you stick your hand out, you pass a law or put a law to the Parliament of Western Australia, what you call the Parliament, and they decided you had the right to order the police to arrest people and force them to have an injection. I supplied documents from Pfizer to you and to the Magistrates Court Geraldton. The purported magistrate was Angus Houghton, that stated very clearly that that is conspiracy to commit murder, because Pfizer says those people die, some of them do, from the injection. But that's going to be a subject of another video, because I want to deal with Albanese. Albanese, you're not lawful. You're not the Prime Minister, you're a liar, you're a fraud. Your Electoral Act doesn't exist in law. Elections have to be taken state by state from a pool of people selected by a governor, which we don't have. And from that pool, each person selected, person being a living, breathing man person, not your corporate persons, from your Corporations Act. Each person represents the whole state. Where do I get that from? Clause 8 to the Constitution. When the colonies become states, the Boundaries Act no longer applies, so you can't have a boundary. Oh, look at that. There goes your hard border. Another lie put forward by the police, I'm against hard borders. How can you be against something that doesn't exist and I've already proved it? The little line on a piece of paper defines the area known as each state. There are no hard borders. McGowan's idea of checking people at the border is an absolute abuse of authority. Where is your evidence that these people have drugs, alcohol, are driving drunk, are criminals or anything else? You have none. You cannot stop them. You do, you're depriving them of their liberty. Do you comprehend that? You better, because you're opening yourselves up to huge lawsuits. Now go back to Clause 8. It says, when colonies become states, the Boundaries Act no longer applies. So there's no electoral boundaries. Each member is elected to represent the whole state, not the areas, diminishing authority of some people over another, creating the lie, which is what I put to the state governor, and he never appeared in court. The end result is, you got nothing. I walked out of there laughing at the state solicitor for his lies, because he got caught out big time. Now, it goes on and it says, however, when the Commonwealth is established, it's established as a self-governing colony of England, and that act applies, the Boundaries Act. Where is the boundary? It is 12 nautical miles offshore. You can add to it, take away, you do whatever you like, as long as the Constitution authorises it. Does it? I've never found it, so go for it. There's one of your big problems. So, Albanese, why didn't you, or Scott Morrison, or your political parties, because you're all in the same bed, get it through your brains? If there's a quarantine on medical grounds, it would have to be in the house of the person who is so extremely sick or diseased, you can't let him out into the public. I've got no problem with that. But you cannot allow people to come into this state, politicians, judges, magistrates, and all your fairy friends, to travel in and out of this country when we can't. We're locked down in our own towns, which you can't do. You can't lock us down. You don't have emergency powers. If you do, show me in here where it says you do. If they were exercisable, they would be exercisable over the governor, by the governor, in council, and the Governor-General in council at federal level. Now, Albanese, you cannot, I don't care who says you can, you're referring to your green constitution, giving you the ability, and so are all your advisors and all these experts in law, to change the constitution, or alter the way you do it. No, you can alter words in a sentence in here to correct something that does not quite make sense. That's an alteration. When you remove the rights contained in here, you've changed it. Do you nullify this? No. You wipe yourself out as a filthy lying traitor. So I'm going to refer back to you, Mr. Albanese. You are not having a referendum. You are not going to give these people 90.2% of every Australian able to vote voted to give the people of this country that were here prior to the white people coming the same rights as us. You can't give them a voice. They've already got it. You see, there is no such lawful entity as the Australian government. And I'll clarify something else. If you go to the Northampton Museum, you'll find a bronze plaque on that issued by Billy Hughes. Oh, look at that. He was a nice little Labor backstabbing traitor, put a lot of unlawful laws in place. He put on that plaque the kangaroo and the emu emblem that's used. Don't worry about 1973, 74 and all this. Go back to where it was done. By whom? By whom? Billy Hughes. Billy Hughes introduced conscription, which resulted in thousands of people going to war and dying. Murderer. He introduced the preferential voting system. He tried in his little trip down memory lane for 9 years in Parliament, or till 2019, put it that way, tried 9 times to remove the statute of monopolies. Why? He wanted control, because he was a Fabian. Not knocking Fabian, that's his religion. 116 of the Constitution said you can be a Fabian. Says you can be a Freemason, you can be a Buddhist. Follow Islam. Follow anything you like. You cannot touch our Constitution.
Hi everyone, I'm Grandmother Malara and I'm here to talk to you about The Voice. I've had many inquiries about my thinking about The Voice. I've heard lots of commentary about it. I've watched quite a few videos. Not one of them speaks about what I'm going to speak to you about. I have grandmother law. I'm an initiated senior law woman, and I wear the black because I hold the law. So I'm going to come to you from the law and the other law. I also have done a Juris Doctor law degree. When I did a Juris Doctor law degree, I did Commonwealth constitutional law, amongst other subjects, and under this constitutional law discovered such a thing as parliamentary sovereignty. Parliamentary sovereignty, we say. What is that? Well, let's go back to natural law. In the founding constitution of this country, which is not based on natural law, which us Indigenous people do follow, First Nations people, Aboriginal people of this country, we follow the natural law, LORE. So, which comes under spiritual law, LAW. So we have an obligation to fulfil things right way, proper way, right law way under our sacred law. We are the sovereign peoples of this land, and we have never ceded that sovereignty. That's well known. And in the founding constitution that the British brought to this country, it had no mention of parliamentary sovereignty. In fact, it doesn't even mention a prime minister. When I learnt that over the course of my other law degree, such a thing as parliamentary sovereignty exists. Parliamentary sovereignty, that is legal fiction. The constitution that we are being asked to vote on is not the same constitution as the founding fathers. It's not the founding constitution to this country. In 1973, I'll leave this hat on because that's when this brought in. 1973, our constitution was changed. The founding constitution and the governance of our country and our peoples at that time was moved sideways in 1973 by Gough Whitlam. And what came in was a model of a corporation. It looks and feels the same as what we did have, but what's different here is that we didn't get to vote on it. Parliament became sovereign. A Queen of Australia was invented, and neither of which are legal truths. So the constitution we are being asked to vote on is actually the charter to the corporation of this government here. And this government here has Parliament as sovereign. So who votes for Parliament? Supposedly we do, but there's a great deal of controversy as to whether our elections are actually rigged or whether they're true. There's a lot of evidence to show that they're rigged. So it's already, people who are in Parliament have already been pre-selected, probably not voted by you and I, if you do vote, but they say that they are sovereign. If we say yes to the voice for the Indigenous peoples, we come on to this charter, which is like a rule book, the rules for the corporation. It means that the original people of this country will cede their sovereignty, that Parliament has a greater say over them. See, that's what will happen. So I say to you to wake up, Australia, that in actual fact, all of us have been not been told the truth. The old constitution, founding constitution, and the old style of governance that came under that is over here. That's not what we're voting for. But they are tricking us to say that our original people of this country should be on the constitution. Well, that's this one. Over here on this one, this is only a rule, the rules for the corporation. And Indigenous people don't actually have legal personality under colonial law unless they are incorporated. And we have a lot of issues around the corporatisation of our original peoples who are following the corporate model. We call them the black corporates or the corporate blacks, the ones who are dealing with and getting the funding that people are aware of how many billions of money goes into Aboriginal Australia and the Torres Strait Islanders. However, it goes into the corporate black model. It does nothing for our own people on their country with the real issues that they face every day. And just like the apology, which we welcomed, nothing has changed. And the voice, I might say to you, is a vote to put the original people's sovereignty under Parliament sovereignty, so that the Parliament law, this law, has rules this law, and that just cannot happen. So I say to you, our old people and my brothers and sisters in law, Aboriginal law, original law of this country, we say walk with us into a new future, a new dreaming, where we might sit at the table and forge an agreement between us about how we might move forward. Because this law is sourced on natural law, and this law is sourced on man-made law. And we cannot have this parliament that's questionable having any sovereignty over our original law. That is my position. Vote how you wish. But I just say one last thing. We are being played upon. We're being played emotionally to vote according to our, we want what's right for our original people. Well, this isn't going to change anything.
He divides people into 4 quadrants. The really smart ones are the people that help others and help themselves, right? That's the really smart class, right? The bandit class are the ones who basically hurt others and help themselves. That he calls those bandits. And in the 3rd quadrant, those are the helpless. Those are the people that are always helping others, but then end up poor on the street themselves. He calls them helpless, right? They're the constant hero that doesn't take care of themselves, so they can't, And so, and then there are the stupid people who hurt others and hurt themselves. Like, I'm going to vaccinate my child, right, on TikTok or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's human sacrifice. That's human. You're destroying your child.